Hi, Jen.
Hey Mary, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good, good.
So Nina is on, but she doesn't have video or a
Or
phone on her computer.
yeah, she chatted in, so we've been chatting. Um, do you know if is anyone else logging in today, or is it just the two of you?
So I don't know. Nina, is anyone else? Is my dad in the office?
It's okay either way because this is recorded. And, uh,
I don't know if anyone else.
right.
I'll send out an email really fast.
How's Olivia? We're hoping to repeat the whole series in the fall, which would be great. Okay, no worries. Why don't we get started?
Okay.
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 Don't put pressure on anyone. It has been, you guys have been training through a major global crisis and national upheaval.
Yeah.
So it's not the norm for sure. So I'm just happy that some of you completed it and you have access to the portal and, you know, um, we'll continue on through with what's next. So I'm not sure where what we'll stack up next. But I think it'll be. I'm going to try to encourage Mike, your dad, to consider some of the transition workshops that we've created. So I'll send those over to him next week. But
Okay.
yeah. So Nina, are you back at your desk?
She is.
Okay, great. Okay, well, let's start out with just a short grounding meditation. So just 3 minutes, just to kind of interrupt the day and land you here for this experience. Okay, so just sit up nice and tall, just as you are. Uncross your legs, and you can either close your eyes or set your gaze. And this will be unled. So leaning into either the breath or the body for the next 3 minutes, just landing here completely. midtones bringing us back. All right, so this is lesson 8. So it's the last in the signature series of lessons. And I hope that after today's lesson, you really walk away with this feeling that tied up some loose ends. But I'm also not going to suggest that you don't leave with a lot of questions and things to work on. So the material that we'll cover today will reshape the way you think about your mind and your relationship to it. So mindfulness of the mind is really pulling everything we've done together, from starting with how to anchor in the body or the breath, how to work with the body in a mindful way, understanding sensation, working with discomfort, mindful eating, working with the elements, understanding feeling tones, and that we spend a whole lot of time in neutral, right, versus pleasant or unpleasant. Understanding emotions and how emotions can be thought of differently than feeling tones. Understanding how we could be with difficult, strong emotions and still find some spaciousness to rest. Separating being in the thick of an emotion where the emotion is kind of in the driver's seat versus hosting an emotion or a part of you experiencing a difficulty in life, right? So understanding the relationship of preciousness in this human experience, in this human body, and that it's always changing. So it will absolutely change and end. So impermanence. And that urgency to ground in the present moment when we really start working with impermanence and preciousness in relationship. And that leads us here into the mind. And what do we do with these busy, ruminating thoughts of the mind? How do we develop a relationship with the mind and not let it overwhelm us completely? So here we are. So I'm going to start with a quote. And this is a really traditional quote. It's from the Buddha himself. And it says, "Who is your enemy?" said the Buddha. "Mind is your enemy. No one can harm you more than a mind untrained. Who is your friend? Mind is your friend. No one can assist you and care for you better than a mind well trained, not even the most loving mother or father." So everything we do in this practice of developing awareness is kind of working with the mindfulness practices, the mind training practices, to start developing these capacities to be with the difficulties, to be with that which makes us feel discomfort. And the mind can do that too, just like the body does it, right? So we've talked, I think each of you have talked a little bit about, especially as we're going through the thick of COVID together, just this uncertainty and how the mind will kind of jump way ahead into future thoughts or start ruminating over worry. So we've had a really we've really highlighted these experiences together over the last couple of months, which it's hard to believe that we started this training in February, right? So right before COVID hit, we kind of jumped in, feeling really innocent, I think, like this innocent idea of this journey we were about to embark on. Never did I think that we'd be facing together what we ultimately face. So I just want to applaud you because you have been asked to work with the mind since the very beginning and without us kind of pointing it out, right? So you were forced into working with the mind before you were ready to kind of work with it because of the circumstances. So, so hopefully some of this feels like a little bit of a reminder because we've been sprinkling it in as we've gone along. So moment to moment awareness of the mind is absolutely being with the mind just as it is without pushing thoughts away. Because remember, meditation, mindfulness meditation is not about eliminating thoughts. It's not about this no mind idea, which by the way, is a transition when we look at Hindu meditation practices. So Hindu meditation practices said, no mind. Meditation means no mind. We eliminate the mind. And the Buddha came in and said, oh, no, 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 no. That's not possible because we're human beings having a human experience, living in this human body, and inside our skull is a brain, is a mind. And we can't eliminate it. We need to be able to work with it skillfully so that it doesn't cause more suffering, so it doesn't spin us out into like just the stress response, right? So that's why he's known as the first psychologist. That's why his work has been so important and influential. Oh, there's your dad. Hi, Mike.
Yeah, he just texts.
Yeah.
I don't know if he'll be able to
Right.
So I'm driving.
Oh,
Okay.
geez.
Hi. Oh, look at the.
Is that okay?
Huh?
Is it okay to drive and listen?
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. Just don't look at me. I'm worrying about you. So just to bring you up to speed, what I was talking to Mary and Nina about is that hopefully some of the material we cover today feels like a review because we've been kind of forced into sprinkling some of these concepts in prematurely just due to the dramatic circumstances we've been dealing with. COVID, with the Black Lives Matter movement, with the riots and protests, with just the upheaval and uncertainty that we've been living through, which is pretty incredible. So,
1 second.
yeah.
All right.
And I'm going to repeat a quote I just read to the girls because it's something we'll be working with in a moment. So this quote says, who is your enemy, says the Buddha.
I'm going to put this next to my ear because I can't hear, okay?
Oh, yeah.
So you see like the side of my head.
Okay. Does it go through does it go through your audio?
That's what it is. Yeah, now I'm good.
You good now? Okay.
Now I'm good.
Okay. All right. I'm going to read the quote and then we'll get into some of the lesson.
Okay.
Who is your enemy, says the Buddha. Mind is your enemy. No one can harm you more than a mind untrained. Who is your friend? Mind is your friend. No one can assist you and care for you better than your mind well trained, not even the most loving mother or father. So in other words, it's up to us. It's a big responsibility because it is up to us to work with the mind in a friendly way. So that's where the compassion practices that we've been working on really come into play here and will continue to be of utmost importance, especially in doing the formal practices and not getting so not being so hard on yourself, that inner critic voice that'll pop up and say, oh, you're doing this wrong, or you can't do this, right? Or you've been kind of daydreaming this whole time and you did it wrong. Like just coming back with kindness, with a gentleness, with a loving friendliness towards yourself, because we have to start there. So emphasizing that, okay? So the benefits of being mindful of mind. What does that mean? Mindful of mind. Any thoughts?
Just like where you are, or what, like mindful of, or thinking about
Yeah.
that. Like,
Yeah. What are the thoughts in the mind right now? Right? What is the mind doing right now? Let's start with what is the job of so Nina, you could type it in. Mike and Mary, you could just
The job of the mind, did you say?
Yeah.
So like think and process?
Sure. What else? What else does the mind do?
Control your body.
I would say your emotions, right? Like controlling your emotions or firing your emotions.
It could be entangled with emotions, certainly, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and we've talked a lot about that, right? How stories we tell ourselves, right? The stories we tell
Yep.
ourselves. But what else does the mind do? What's the function and job? What are the jobs of the mind? So Mary said to learn, to process, to take care of the autonomic nervous, automatic features and functions of the nervous system and physiology. What else? Process actions, feelings, thoughts. Yeah. How about remember? The mind remembers. The mind
Yeah.
mind imagines, creates, innovates. Right?
Yeah, it's your storage, right? Like your
Your memory.
data RAM.
Absolutely. So, in other words, we absolutely need the mind. It has a role, it has a function. There's specific things that we wouldn't be having this experience without it. So, when we sit to meditate and we get caught up in a memory or an imagining or an insight or a remembering, whatever it is, whatever's coming up, we don't want to push it away. That's the mind's job, right? So in other words, the mind's thinking. The mind is remembering. The mind is creating. The mind is giving information, processing, right? And then all it does is it kind of, remember we keep using this example of it creates just a little space, right? So this big thought could come in and it could feel like it's taking up all the space available. And then we could just acknowledge, there's the mind thinking, right? There's the mind imagining. There's the mind doing its job. And then there's some spaciousness to work with. And we could rest in the space. And the mind could just keep doing its thing. So in other words, we can witness or become the witness to consciousness or awareness processing the mind's thinking, instead of feeling so caught up and mingled in to the thoughts themselves or memories or imaginings. And we're doing that in mindfulness. We're building a capacity of developing awareness. So awareness, in other words, can witness a wearing happening. So it's just like that hub and tire that we've been talking about. So the hub is awareness itself. And all of the jobs of the mind are sitting on the rubber tire of the wheel. And they come into view as the wheel turns. So the mind is noticing through the sense door of hearing. The mind is noticing through the sense door of feeling, of experiencing sensation in the body. We become aware of pleasantness or unpleasantness or a neutral tone. We become aware of a strong emotion coming into view. We start awareing that that emotion is connected to a story or a memory or an experience or a conversation. And we start developing these insights, and it's almost as if we're witnessing everything happening. So the question becomes, who's witnessing?
Us? Or
And-
no one?
Right, so we're getting into some really deep philosophy here, right? So if we're able to witness the mind doing all these things, who's the witness?
We are, right?
Yeah, but who are we, right? So that's the question, and it's going to be different for each of us. Awareness is awareing. Some people will call it consciousness. Some people will call it the soul, the big self, right? In other words, we start reconciling that we could separate a little from the mind instead of walking around in the world identifying with the mind's experience of being in this human form. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely.
Right.
Sometimes even in a bad way, like in investing, we call it like anchoring bias. Sometimes we anchor to a most recent experience, like you said, in a witness, and it makes us actually make mistakes sometimes, right? Because we think their last experience is going to extrapolate into the future forever.
Exactly.
So,
The
does that
negativity,
make sense?
yes. And the negativity bias is something that develops out of experience, right? So conditioning, right? The Black Lives Matter movement talks a lot about, what we've been kind of thrown into is coming to terms with this phrase white privilege and understanding that just being born into skin that's white makes us different and have a different experience on this planet because of historical and societal conditioning and biases. Right? So there's a lot of reconciliation right now because we may think, oh, I can't identify as being privileged because I don't identify with that, or I don't see color. We see this coming up a lot right now, especially with folks that are really open-minded and feel more progressive about social issues, right? Oh, I don't identify with that because I don't see color. Well, what the Black Lives Matter movement is challenging is it's saying, okay, you don't see color, but the fact is that just being born white makes you privileged. So we experience a completely different reality than our brothers and sisters that have been born into brown or black skin or yellow skin or whatever it is. And not to get too political here, but it's an important conversation, right? Because with this development of awareness, we're asked to look or turn the lens in so that we could see the biases that are there instead of feeling so entangled with them. So we could look and see, oh, wow, wait, this is true. I have had an experience of privilege just being born white. And that doesn't make me a horrible person. It makes me open and aware to the possibility that there's biases here that I haven't looked at close enough. So that's really what this movement is about, is kind of looking in and seeing that there might be patterns there that are harmful to other people. And does it mean that we start identifying with that part of ourselves? No, it just means that we're being asked to reconcile and acknowledge that there's people within our society that have been marginalized and they need some help and support right now, right? So it could get really controversial, but it's just a mind bias, just like you said, Mike, right? It's just something that's there because of experience. So there's a great teacher, her name is Reverend Angel Kyoto Williams, and she's a Dharma teacher out in Oakland, California, and she's a Black woman. And I attended a lecture with her last fall, and it was really when I started reconciling with this word, white privilege, because I didn't understand it, and I was really pushing it back from it. I was like, oh no, I don't feel that way. I'm not included in that. That doesn't apply to me. And she said, when she moved to London years ago, and she was already a Dharma teacher and working in the Dharma community, and she was find her Black Dharma community in London. And when she finally found a community that she felt like she could be a part of, what they told her is, oh, you don't fit in with us because you're a privileged American. So the bias was turned and flipped over towards her, and she finally understood why white people, white Americans, will push back on that labeling. And she said it didn't matter that I had the same skin tone as my brothers and sisters in the group that I was trying to join. They saw me as different. The bias was there. The assumption of privilege was there just because I moved there from the United States. So it depends on context, privilege. You see what I mean? So we're being challenged right now, and certainly I would bet that each of us have been triggered by some of the challenges that have come up over the last couple of weeks, where we felt, oh no, not me. So when you feel that come up, oh no, not me, check in and look at the mind and feel into the body and notice what and how the body is responding. Because once you do that, once you acknowledge what the experience is of the trigger, it will loosen. And then you could look at it and not feel so, it won't feel so charged. And then you could kind of sort through how you feel and what your thoughts are and how you could process it. And so that's what we're trying to teach people at the end of the day. That's what awareness, this development of awareness means. It's a responsibility to look in. And that little space that opens up, remember, moment to moment awareness, that little space that opens up in the formal practices when we're noticing, awareing, and then we could respond, changes everything. Because then we're able to really check into the gut, and we're really able to check into authenticity and heart and wisdom and say, okay, I understand, and this is how I need to respond skillfully to cause the least amount of suffering in an already very difficult situation on all sides. So there's always an opportunity for space, and it's within that space where the freedom is, and that's a game changer. So when we could become the witness to experience and not feel so charged in the reactivity of it when the triggering comes up, it makes us stronger. And that's where resilience builds. That's how we build resilience. That's how we could remain steady when the shit hits the fan, because the shit will keep hitting the fan. Right?
That's the theme of 2020.
Yes. Gotta keep coming. It's keep coming. And that doesn't mean that we make mistakes and we say the wrong thing or do the wrong thing, or because guess what, guys? Everybody here is a human being having a human experience with a human mind that's really wants to be in control all the time. Right? So it's this constant little battle that we face. Okay? So when you do screw up, when you do get reactive, be kind to yourself. Be compassionate. It's okay. You can begin again with the work. Okay? So let's break this down a little bit more. Mindfulness of mind reveals the nature of the mind. And it's really important that you get to know your patterns and your tones and the flow of thoughts in and out. Okay, so we're going to do a short practice. Mike, you are not allowed to close your eyes.
That could be a problem.
Yeah, so don't do that. All right.
Actually, I may pull over somewhere here if I can, but I'll let you know.
Yeah, you don't have to. And remember, you could always, like, this is being recorded, so you could always go back and review it and do the practices with us. Okay? So for the first short practice we're going to do is I'm going to set the timer for 1 minute. And again, Nina, just chat in your response. So it's a 1 minute. Mike? Okay, I'm going to keep going. Yeah, I think he got like stuck or something, the internet.
Yeah.
Okay, so what we're going to do
Can you
is,
hear? Yeah.
I can hear you, but you're cutting in now.
So I pulled over and I think I lost connection.
You're still here.
Oh, okay, I'm good then.
Yeah, you're good.
All right.
Okay, awesome. So what we're gonna do in this first exercise is close your eyes for 1 minute, and I want you to count each thought that comes into the mind. So count each one, and we'll start now. And stop. And share with me how many thoughts you were able to count.
I think I had 33 or 34.
Awesome. How about you?
I counted 15, but like also it's weird because when I'm like told to have to like count my thoughts, I feel like I don't have as many natural flowing thoughts.
Yeah, good noticing. And Nina had 19, including business, a lot of a little. I agree. So it doesn't matter how many you noticed or counted, right? So sometimes you'll do this exercise or practice and you'll like have one really long thought that takes up the whole space. Or you could have like flashes of a lot, like Mike, if you may have had just like little taps in of thoughts, right?
Mhm.
Taps in of thoughts. You could have repetitive or ruminating thoughts. Now, same noticing, did you notice that those thoughts came in as words, images, sounds, anything else? How did they come in?
Words.
Words, mine were images and sounds because I'm just off the highway, so I heard a lot of trucks and whatnot and birds.
Yep, good. And Mary was words?
Yeah, Nina said words.
And hers were words. So what you'll notice, and I would encourage you guys to do this every couple of weeks, just do a 1 minute, hey, what's going on in my mind? Is there a ruminating thought? Is there a lot of busy thoughts? And the rule is though, when you look in, you can't like get hyper judgmental about it, right? So, oh, isn't that interesting? Right? That's how you want to deal with it. Oh, it's so interesting, right? Get curious about it. Just like we do with emotions. That's just like we do with feeling tones. Just like we do with sensation. Isn't that interesting? Because as soon as you start bringing curiosity in, judgment spills away. And that goes for interpersonal challenging conversations too. Oh, isn't that interesting? Get curious about it. Because as soon as you get curious about it, it diffuses the tension that comes up to self or other.
I actually know I was kind of doing that earlier. Like I had all of these thoughts in my head and then I started apart, like, oh, well, why am I thinking those things?
Right.
Like the curiosity behind why I even like having those reoccurring thoughts and whatnot. Do you know what I mean?
Yes. So this is what you could say next, right? So isn't that interesting?
Dad, what?
Isn't that interesting? And then
Sorry about that.
notice that's
You
Hold
can
on.
mute your.
No, sorry. I got a bike rack, so the thing keeps beeping. I'm sorry.
okay. Sorry. So the next, once you get really curious about it, the next question you ask yourself, Mary, is this true? Is this thought true?
So yeah, so sometimes they are.
Right. And then the next phrase you say when you say, oh yeah, this is true, say, am I absolutely sure that this thought is true? Because when we bring that word in, absolutely, I want you to think, if I had to go in front of a judge or jury, can I prove that this thought that I'm having, this ruminating thought, is absolutely 100% true? And I would say that 9 times out of 10, we can't say yes, right? So what does that do? It opens the door of possibility. Okay? And even though there can absolutely be things that are absolutely true, right? Like, and I'll use something like art, like if you were engaged to get married and your wedding was next month, and you said, oh, I'm stressed out about my wedding next month, and you said, is this true? Well, yeah, it's true. Is it absolutely 100? Well, yeah, it's absolutely 100% true. It's scheduled, it's paid for, all these things are happening, right? Well, and then COVID hits, right? Then you can't answer it anymore. It's just, so it gets really interesting, but it just opens up the door. And where this becomes really helpful is in interpersonal communication. Because a lot of times we jump into assumptive thinking that difficult, especially with coworkers, with family. You know, we've all been in a situation where somebody walks into the office and stomps past you. You think, oh my God, this person's upset with me because of something that happened yesterday, a deadline I didn't meet, or critique that I gave, or this and that. So when you feel, especially the personal judgments coming up and you start ruminating about it because you're worried, of course, and you don't want to be in conflict. Most people don't, right? These are when these slogans become very, 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 very skillful and helpful. Because then we could go to the other person and say, you know, the story I'm telling myself is that you're upset right now because of the critique I gave in the meeting yesterday on your project. And I just want to kind of check in with you because, you know, it's bothering me and I'm feeling like I don't want to be in disharmony with you, right? Whatever. And you could use the words that would be most, you know, appropriate for you, of course, right? But how does that feel versus, hey, I know you're pissed off at me because of the critique I gave, right? Hey, there's a story in my head that keeps going on. The story I'm telling myself is, and so this person may have gotten bad news about their pet, you know, or had to, you know, make a hard decision about a relationship. I mean, or it could be facing a health crisis. You have no idea. 9 times out of 10, it's nothing about you, right? So, but we take things personally because we have these big sensitive hearts. And the mind wants to be in control of the heart. So we could just shine the light of awareness on the mind, thinking of processing, of remembering, of noticing. And we could take a look at the story that's coming up and how the body that's processing it or holding it. And then it opens up that space for the potential of just working through it instead of it just spinning out of control. And this is really helpful in organizations that, you know, teams that are working really tightly together because there's inevitably drama. Inevitably. Because everybody in your office right now is having a soap opera happening in their own mind. Get caught up in it, right? Yeah. So when everybody on the team starts working and is on the same page with understanding the functions of the mind, that settles a lot, right? It could diffuse a lot of potential issues from even coming up in the first place. So I have a lot to cover and not much time, so I'm going to move ahead, but I'll leave some space at the end to come back to this, okay? So I'm going to skip ahead just a little bit, and I want you to start a journal list as you're going on the next couple weeks without lessons. And I want you to come up with a top 10 list of thoughts that you notice, repetitive thoughts that come up frequently, whether in your formal practice or informal practice. So I'm going to share two of mine, right? Just to give you an example. One of them is what I call my curly hair thought. Okay? It's ridiculous. But the fact is that I have very unruly curly hair. And I never know from day to day if it's going to cooperate with me. Okay? So every day in my practice, the curly hair thought comes in. And it comes up and it takes more space than I want it to. And I bow to it. And I say, oh, hello there, curly hair thought. There you are today. Right? I just get really playful about it. And inevitably, the worried thought about one or more of my children will come in. You know, usually it's Josh because he's my risk taker, right? So there you are worried about Josh thought, I see you. Good to, good to see you today. So we can start being really playful and light. We call them the top 10 hits, right? And we all have them. And they start taking up the more we acknowledge them. Okay? It's almost as if there's something within the mind that just, it just wants us to surface these things that, for whatever reason, right? This is part of our personality, whatever it is, right? So you need to know your list, in other words. Know your list. Understand your own mind. It's your responsibility. Go back to the first quote. The mind untamed, it can be your enemy. The mind tamed or trained can be your most loving, loyal companion. So we're making friends here with a mind that only wants us to survive, to be safe, to make sense of the world. Okay? And it's just asking for attention, like a screaming toddler. Right? Be aware of your story thoughts. So we'll all have a tendency, because of patterns usually coming from our childhood, usually coming from our parents, and some of their dysfunctional qualities, because we all have them, right? It could come from trauma. So if you've been in trauma or dealt with trauma in your life, and 1 in 3 adults have dealt with significant trauma, okay? These patterns, these story patterns, are a part of us that we could begin, again, dismantling a little bit so that they don't have so much control over us. So we all have, so I'll tell you a story about my 7th grade dance. And I was very, very shy. And I was really awkward. I had braces and I was really skinny and I had frizzy curly hair. And I had a boy asked me to my 7th grade dance, and I went, and I was not in the popular group. And we were invited to a party after the dance, and I knew some of the kids there, of course, but there were a lot of older kids, 8th graders and 9th graders at this party. And there were a group of girls in 9th grade that I really looked up to. And I thought that they were the coolest, they were the most popular, this and that. And at that party, I started noticing that they were popular because their makeup was always perfectly done. And these were the assumptions I made. And their nails were always perfectly done. And they were very, very, very outgoing. So they were singing and dancing in front of everyone, and everybody had their attention. And I thought, I have to be like that in order to be in this group of popular people. And we have all had experiences like that, right? We think, oh, I'm not good enough. I need to be like that. So I'll still, to this day, catch myself in that comparing mind, because my tendency is just to kind of socially get a little awkward in crowds. And so I've had to come to terms with that. That's just a part of who I am. It takes me a little while to start feeling comfortable. In a group like this, I could shine a little bit more, right? But it has taken me almost my entire adult life to reconcile with that. And it still comes up. So these are the things that you want to look for. Like, oh, wow, why did that happen? Where did that come from? When did that start? These insights I only remembered that because of a prompt that I was given, and then sitting in quiet in a formal practice. And it all made sense. You see what I mean? So these stories that we, because of experiences that we've had, good or bad, stay with us, and they could really shift us into stepping away from authenticity at times, which never feels comfortable. So it's always about understanding where these things are rooted. And we all have the capacity to be with it. And sometimes you might need some help. And sometimes that could be from the help of a meditation teacher. But sometimes it could be help from a counselor, a therapist, a psychologist, especially if you're trauma. So I don't want you to think that you have to sort through all of this on your own. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Those story thoughts, we just want to be aware of them. Watch them coming up. Also, thoughts can certainly impact our physical well-being and health. Okay, why? What did we learn in this experience? Ruminating thoughts and stuff that comes in, it affects every part of ourselves. It makes us feel less integrated, disconnected. It pulls us away from that center space, that hub, right? It interrupts it. And then the whole organism gets destabilized. Okay? So there's a new study out, and it was posted, and I'll share it with you guys after our call today. And it's on the biggest risk of early onset dementia. Guess what the risk factor is? Have you guys seen this study?
I saw the headline. I didn't read the article though.
Okay, Mike, did
No.
you?
Is it stress?
So it's rigidity. It's the opposite of being open-minded. It's difficult people that want to hyper control everything.
Interesting.
Yeah. So the opposite quality as a preventative strategy are people that are open-minded or open to life and change. So the remedy, according to the article, is mindfulness meditation. All right. So
Wow.
we're starting to understand neurologically the impacts of stress, of how stress in your life in any way, shape, or form impacts us physiologically, neurologically, and our anatomy. It affects the cells in our bodies everywhere, and it disintegrates us. So integration is key to health. So understanding when the stress is too much, when it's overwhelming, understanding the difference between good stress and chronic stress, and making sure that we have the inner resources to deal with and meet it in the healthiest way possible. And that also might mean taking a vacation, seeking outside counsel, going to retreat, committing to your formal practice. Committing to your formal practice. Because without those qualities of openness and spaciousness, we are at risk, not just for heart disease, but diseases of the mind. Okay? So we could really start prioritizing these practices with much more clarity and commitment. The last thing I want to mention is, and I would encourage you, there's 2 books I would encourage, especially for you, Mike, because I know you love this stuff. There's a new book out by Dan Siegel, and it's called Awareness. And Dan Siegel is a neuropsychologist, and he's the one who developed the practice, the Wheel of Awareness, which is something that we worked on a couple of weeks ago with the hub and the tire. Okay. Also, the work of Rick Hansen, and Rick Hansen is also a neuropsychologist, and he has a new book out called Neurodharma. and he's actually a guest on our webinar series this Friday.
Oh,
He's
wow.
Yeah, he's the head of the Berkeley's science. What is it called? There's a mindfulness study, neuro study center. I think it's like the Good News Science Center at Berkeley, but he's been highly involved in Jack Kornfield's community in Northern California and has been studying the neuroscience of mindfulness for 30 years. So I would encourage you guys to tune in Friday to the webinar. It's free. It's in the portal. You'll be able to access it through the portal. Actually, that's not true. You have to sign up for it. So if you're interested, let me know and I'll send you all the information and get you guys signed up. The recording will be in the portal, but if you want to drop into the live conversation with him, I have to pre-register you.
What time on Friday?
At 2:00.
Yeah, I'll log in for it if you could send the
So fascinating. So I'll just get you signed up for it, Mary.
Okay.
And Mike, I'll just go ahead and get you signed up, and then if you could attend, great. If you can't, you could get the
I have a golf thing, but I want to listen to the replay.
Yeah, definitely. And here we are. So I have another quote for you that I really love.
How did you land that guy?
So
That's awesome.
we just reached out to him and asked him. And
oh my God, I'm sick here that I can't listen in like live. That's so cool.
I know we're starting to get really, really good guests. So we're starting a podcast, and your recording, our interview will be on the podcast. So we took all of the audio from the webinars that we did in the resilience training, and we moved it over to the podcast format. And we will be releasing the podcast on all of the podcast infrastructures within the next month. And the podcast is called Meet Your Center. So,
Very cool.
yeah, so we'll be doing them twice a month. And yeah, we're trying to bring people in from the Dharma community and neuroscience community and industry leaders. So from all different industries, enlightened leadership,
Yeah.
and just try to kind of bring that together. But in the work of both Dan Siegel and Rick Hansen, what they talk about is this mind-heart connection. And in all of the work you're doing, whether you're conscious of it or not, it's bringing you out of the mind and out of the heart into this space of the mind-heart, where the mind and heart are integrated. And that's where we feel most connected to ourselves and each other. So it's a very embodied experience, the mind-heart space. And it can be developed through these practices. And when we start trusting that we could rest there, we could start moving through that space in all circumstances. And that is the work of the bodhisattvas in the world. So bodhisattvas are beings in the world that operate from this space. So you could think of Mother Teresa as a good example of that, right? And you probably could think of people that just exhibit those qualities. But I want you to trust that that space is available for all of us. And it takes a commitment over a long period of time of just doing the work to develop it. Okay? So the quote that I want to share is, "The mind creates the abyss and the heart crosses it." The mind creates separateness and the heart has the courage to cross it, to bring us together. So we could always lean into this mind-heart space. And in the work of Dan Siegel, He believes that's where awareness resides, right? That it's an embodied experience of processing and connecting. So more lecture today than practice because there's so much to cover and we're running out of time. We're out of time.
But you know what, Jen? With the lecture part, like it tied so many of the last, I want to say, 15, 16 weeks. Like I understand if I feel like today's a new beginning in like my mindfulness because there's some clarity. I'm not like perfect. I don't mean I'm there, but there's a lot more clarity now on your lecture.
Good.
So I'm glad that I was able to get in on this phone.
Good. That's the intention and hope. And remember, like, even if you were only able to really process and work with 20% of what we covered, that's huge. We pack a lot in to 8 weeks to 16 weeks. So I want to really encourage you over the next, 8 or so weeks to just try to work with the practices that you felt most supported by. And don't put too much pressure on yourself to go beyond that. And once you feel like, oh, I'm really curious or I'm really feeling this deep desire to try some other things, then go back and take a look at the recordings. The recordings are all there. All the practices are there. We're going to be releasing like 25 more meditations within the portal before the end of June. There's going to be a lot of practices added, both movement practices, restorative practices. We've been onboarding teachers like crazy. And we're really excited to announce a new consumer platform that all of our corporate customers will have full access to. So Mike, you'll hear more about that in our board meeting early next month that we're trying to coordinate.
Yeah, I saw that.
But we're doing really great work that I'm really proud of. And I hope that you'll give yourself the priority to stay with these practices and reach out to us if you need additional support, because we're here and we're going to be excited to be working with Mike and planning some really great workshops as follow-up to everything that we've done, as well as repeat this signature series at the office when it's safe, so that everybody could get on board with some of the concepts and ideas that we've been working with.
Nina asked how long we have access to the portal.
You guys are with us for the next 2 years. So the portal will just be getting better. We will be rolling out the teacher co-op portal by the end of the summer. So that'll really open up access to classes and meditations and breathing practices. And we're bringing on like an acupuncturist and a Tai Chi practitioner and a Qigong teacher. So it'll just get better and better as you go along.
You gotta get busier,
Yeah, it's been fun. Yeah. You know what though? I'm really passionate about this work because I've experienced such transformation from it. And I've also witnessed hundreds and hundreds of students and people, and it's just been an honor. So, yeah. So I have a lot of energy.
I'll say.
Yeah. So, and I appreciate the support so much because, the last couple of months have been really challenging, but we're recovering business that we were worried about quicker than we anticipated. So
Good.
I feel like we're headed in the right direction.
Real good.
Yeah, it is really good. Any other questions?
Not right now.
I don't. I
Okay.
think, Jen, I'm gonna huddle with Mary, Nina, and like everybody. I was just thinking of a couple of the people that John McCarthy that I lost track with that was interested in
Yeah.
just see where they want to go moving forward and where like I know where I want to go, but yeah, and then we'll be talking about that. I think it's really exciting, all the initiatives that you're doing, but even without them, I think it's really exciting just the signature series, et cetera, that you started with. And like I said today, I learned so much that I wish that everybody else could like have experienced it. That's all, to know like the importance of it,
Yeah, I do. I said this in the beginning before you jumped on, but I just wanted to remind you guys that you've been through a major global event that has been
Yeah,
incredibly challenging. And then layered right after that, we've been, we're going through a transformation as a country.
yeah,
And so the fact that our group has shrunk a little bit really doesn't mean anything. It just means that it's unbelievable that we started this training in February before anything happened, and here we are,
yeah,
And so we're
yeah,
really proud of you guys showing up week after week and staying the course. And I hope that you found it as a source of support and as a little bit of a refuge in the midst of everything. So
absolutely. Yeah, and I mean, honestly, because I went through this, I'm not mad at anyone. I don't mean it that way, because it's like I'm not trying to judge them and being kind to myself. But by the way, I understand people have children and this and that and obligations and phone calls and work and meetings that just come up out of nowhere. But yeah, that's all. I would like to share everything that I've learned with them. Like I'm trying to figure that out.
yeah. Well,
How to continue this going and get everybody, because everyone's in a stressful world. We're in a stress, and it's just, I don't even want to say, I know it's stress, but it's just like, how do you, like optimal performance? Like if you really could, I'm not saying control your mind. I know you can't do that, but understand it a little better. You probably have a more optimal like way about going about your daily activities.
you can't control your mind, but you can train it,
Yeah.
and you can work with it in a much healthier way and have a much more enjoyable day-to-day experience. Because
Mm-hmm.
like I said from the beginning, mindfulness meditation, or any meditation for that matter, does not eliminate stress. It doesn't ever
Right.
go away. So it doesn't really matter if we're in the middle of a pandemic or hurricane season or flu season or stress from your kids. um, Triggers are going to keep coming up no matter what, so we can work with them skillfully, or we could be really reactive and suffer the consequences of that. So yeah, so I think that's the messaging, is that stress is stress is stress is stress. Yes, this is an incredible time that we're living through, but we could work,
Mm-hmm.
we could work with it. So Mike, what I'm going to do is I'm going to forward over to you some new workshops that we've developed for this transitional period of time, kind of hitting, because COVID has been really traumatic for many people, especially
Mm-hmm.
the isolation of COVID. And so we've tried to create some content that addresses trauma without using that big word. Um,
Mm-hmm.
So you might find that that's a good place to start.
Yep. All right.
Okay.
Perfect.
All right. So this is not the end. This is just the beginning. I love working with you guys, and I am here and available at any point. If you need anything, just reach out.
We will.
You.
I'll talk to you soon. Are you going away?
I'm in Florida. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah, I'm at my sister's house. And so I'm back in not this weekend, but next weekend I'll be home. So we could even get
Oh,
together.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. I'd like that.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, for sure. So,
All right.
all right, guys.
Enjoy Florida.
Yes, I will. And you guys have an awesome day. Be safe on the road. And I will send the information to you, Mary, on Rick Hansen.
Okay, thank you.
Okay? All right, guys.
All right.
Guys.
Bye,
Okay,
Mary.
bye,
Bye,
Jen.
Nina.
Thanks.
Bye,
Bye,
Jen.
Dad. Bye,
Bye.
Nina.
Bye, Mary.
Bye, Nina.
Oh, Nina's gone.
Okay.
Dad, thank you.
All right, thank you. Bye.